For many people here in the United States that love to travel, taking a European cruise is considered a bucket list vacation. You know, it's something you want to do at least once in your life before you kick the bucket. Quite often a bucket list item is considered out of reach and something you'll probably never get to do. But after traveling overseas to the UK for cruises with the family during each of the past 2 summers, I realized that European cruises are not nearly as challenging or hard to plan as I thought they'd be. In fact, I'm here to tell you today that planning a European cruise that sails from the UK isn't that much different than planning a cruise that sails from right here in the United States. Today, I'm going to talk about cruising from the United Kingdom and sailing from 2 ports in particular, Southampton and Dover. I'm going to cover how to get from the US to the UK, how to get around once you get there, and give you a few ideas of where to stay and what to do and what to expect before you set sail on your European bucket list cruise. So let's get started. Hi everyone, I'm Jamie from Sharon Travel. Thanks for joining me for the video today. The United Kingdom has a number of cruise ports, but only a few are considered home ports where a cruise will begin. And the 2 southernmost ports, Southampton and Dover, are far and away the 2 busiest passenger ports in the UK. Now, the Southampton cruise port's one of the busiest in the world and expecting to see well over 3 million passengers in 2025 alone, sailing from one of its 5 different cruise terminals. Now, Dover is substantially smaller, only seeing about 250,000 cruisers, and that port also provides ferry and underground transport across the English Channel from the UK to France. Now, when planning a cruise from either of these ports or from any other UK cruise port, the first thing you need to do is figure out how you are going to get there, how you're going to get from the United States over to the UK. Now, you can expect about a 7 to 9 hour nonstop flight from any East Coast international airport. Both times we traveled to the UK, we made our way to JFK Airport in New York for the final leg of our flight. But you'll find flights to the UK originating from airports all over the United States. Now, our experience was that we found it was cheaper to take a one-way flight to the East Coast, then take a nonstop flight to London, and the same when we flew back home. But you'll have to look at the flights, dates, and your budget to make the best decision. One note is when you do book that long overseas flight, any opportunity to upgrade your seat that is within your budget should be considered. Now, our first trip, we flew American Airlines with a standard seat, and it was not a great experience at all. I'm not even going to talk about the Wi-Fi not working for the whole trip. The next time, we flew Virgin Atlantic and spent a few extra dollars to upgrade from economy to economy delight, and it was well worth it. Now, quite often when we fly domestically, we look at one-way flights to get to and from locations, but we did find that, round-trip flights to the UK seem to be the cheapest way to go. Also, don't be afraid to jump airlines, and what I mean by that is you might find the best deal on Southwest, let's say, to get to the East Coast, and then another airline to make your way over the pond, that's what they call it when you fly to the UK, and also make sure to check out airlines outside of the Big Four for your UK flight. You know, it doesn't always have to be Delta, United, or American. There are a lot of other airlines you can choose, and you might find a better deal that way. Now, depending on what state you call home might determine how you want to break up your flights. But one tip I will give you is to plan to fly overseas on an overnight flight. Now, if you can leave the East Coast, let's say around 11 p.m., you can expect to land in the UK around 11 a.m., right? 7-hour flight, 5-hour time change difference. Doing this will allow you to sleep overnight on the flight and arrive at your UK destination hotel midday without too long of a wait to check into the hotel. And for the record, please never try to plan your travel so that you arrive in the UK on the same day as your cruise. That is just a nightmare waiting to happen. Now, if you're already worried about jet lag, sit tight, hang in there, because I'm going to share in a little bit the single best tip and way to avoid jet lag that I have found when you arrive in the UK. But first, let's talk about where you'll be flying to on your overseas flight. You have a few options as far as what airport you can fly into when cruising from Southampton or Dover. But first, let's take a quick look at exactly where you're heading to. The United Kingdom is often referred to as Great Britain and is made up of England, Scotland, and Wales and the northern part of Ireland. Now, this whole area is an island off the northwest coast of Europe. There are a number of amazing places you can visit as you arrange your travels overseas to this area, but for today, we'll focus on the southeastern tip of the UK, which includes the capital city of London and our 2 cruise ports. Now, London's about 2-hour drive time north of each of these 2 cruise ports, give or take a few minutes. And if you're planning some sightseeing pre-cruise, this will probably be the area you will stay in. But let's get back to those airports. There are 5 international airports in the London airport system. The most popular is one that you've probably heard of, and that's London Heathrow Airport. Now, you also have London Gatwick, London Stansted, London City, London Luton, and London Southend. You can look into any of these options, but most likely you will fly into Heathrow or possibly Gatwick. Now, Gatwick is about 30 miles south of London and about 80 miles northeast of Southampton and 80 miles west of Dover. If planning a pre-cruise stay in London, Heathrow is about 15 miles west of London, so it's certainly the closest to where you may be staying. Both airports will offer similar methods of transportation when going from the airport to the cruise port or to what's most likely your hotel destination before the cruise. You'll find the same methods as you would if you're traveling domestically in the US. You're probably going to see an Uber option, taxi, car service, buses, trains, and Heathrow will also offer the Underground to London, which is like London's version of the subway. You may also have a cruise line transfer available from the airport the morning of your cruise that you can look into taking, even if you fly in a few days earlier, because you can head back to the airport the morning of the cruise and catch that shuttle. Now, if you do fly into Gatwick and you're heading to London, in addition to the other methods I mentioned, the train from Gatwick to London might be a great option and less expensive as well. The Gatwick Express goes directly from the Gatwick Airport to the centrally located Victoria Station in London, and from there you can easily make your way to your final destination via the Underground, via a taxi and buses, things like that. Now, another very important thing to keep in mind is that you're going to need the proper documents to travel to the UK. You're going to want to have a valid passport that is not only good through the entire time of your travels, including the time it takes to get home, but it needs to be good for an additional 6 months after you complete your travels. In addition to your passport, you're also going to need to go online and obtain an ETA, an electronic travel authorization, to enter into the UK. A quick Google search will show you how to get the ETA, and make sure you give yourself time to get that passport if you don't already have one. Now, one other note, some of your cruise destinations could require additional forms of documentation to travel there. So make sure to do that research and get ahead of that before getting on your cruise. You can check online, you can check with the cruise line themselves, but make sure you're covered for that. Now, you'll certainly need to do some planning and research for the best method of transportation for how to get to your hotel from whichever airport you fly into. A few big factors to consider will be how many people you're traveling with and how much luggage you have. Now, if you have a larger group, you may end up splitting a ride. During our travels, we found it challenging to find quick transportation for our larger group. Most Ubers and taxis seem to be kind of the size of a four-door sedan or smaller SUVs, and we didn't find a lot of options for larger vehicles without making arrangements ahead of time. Now, in the US, we always seem to have bigger SUVs, Suburbans, Tahoes, things like that, but we didn't find that as much in the UK. Now, I'm not saying you can't find a bigger vehicle, I'm just saying it could be more challenging. Now, there's one company I can recommend if you want to make arrangements ahead of time, because we've used them twice and we had a great experience, and that is Airport Pickups London. Now, we use them to travel from Heathrow to our hotel near the cruise port in Dover on our first trip to the UK, and we use them for a ride from our London hotel to Southampton on our most recent cruise. Now, they are great to work with, easy to contact from the US, and you can pay ahead of time or at the time of the ride. You can use credit card or cash. Now, when I say cash, that is local currency, British pounds. For both of our cruises from the UK, one thing we wanted to do was to make sure that we spent the night before the cruise near the cruise port. One time we arrived in the UK and went straight to a small town about 20 minutes from the Dover cruise port called Folkestone. And the other time, when we spent a few days before in London, we made our way down to Southampton the night before the cruise. Now, doing this gave us peace of mind that we would be close to the cruise port, the morning of the cruise, and we'd have a stress-free embarkation day. Now, in Southampton, it was easy to arrange a ride the morning of the cruise because it's a larger city. For our Dover cruise, we pre-arranged 2 taxis to take our larger group from the hotel to the port due to Dover being a much smaller port town, and Uber wasn't available down there. Now, there were a number of taxi companies to use in Dover, but we went with a company called JJ Taxis. We'll put a little image right here so you know who they were. And we actually made the arrangements with them before we made the trip. Also, when going to the port, you'll find that Dover has 2 cruise terminals right next to each other. It's very easy to get in and out of, while Southampton has 5 different cruise terminals that will have different entrances. So make sure you know which terminal in Southampton your ship is sailing from. Once you arrive at the terminal, it's just like any other cruise. Drop your luggage, check in, and wait to get the party started. Now, I mentioned British pounds earlier, so let's really quickly touch on currency. Now you can use a credit card for almost everything in the UK. Just make sure the one you use offers no foreign transaction fees. That will save you a lot of money. And if possible, make sure you have a backup credit card just in case something happens to the first one. Also, make sure you alert the credit card company that you'll be traveling. You can always use British pounds, which is a local currency. And while you can get those pretty easily at the airport when you arrive, we chose to get some from our local bank ahead of time so we didn't have to buy them when we got there. We just estimated what we would spend in pounds ahead of our trip and bought that amount from our local Bank of America. We actually did this to have cash currency for all the locations we were cruising to. Although you can use your credit card at most every travel destination, we liked having some currency from each port we visited for small purchases and tipping. Now I know that's a whole other conversation. Tipping when you're traveling in London, the UK, it's a whole different vibe. But you can research that on your own. Today, we're just focusing on the cruise part. The bank also bought back any unused foreign currency, which came in handy as well. It only took a few days to get our foreign currency after we ordered it online, and it was kind of fun, as well as, you know, we learned about some of the different examples of the currency and the values and different things like that. So it was pretty cool doing that as a family and exploring the different currencies for all these different countries we were going to. Okay, so we talked about getting to the UK from the US, talked a little about travel documents you'll need and some methods of getting to your hotel after arriving at the airport. Now, for many people, maneuvering the airport and getting around town is the most stressful part of the trip. But remember a few things. The United Kingdom might be foreign soil, but everyone speaks English. It just sounds a little different from the English you might, be used to back home. Also, you can find videos on YouTube that will explain the specific different methods of travel you're looking into, whether it's how to get an Uber, taxi, train, bus, etc. And there are a number of websites that can help you out as well. One site that I found early on before our travels overseas was Rome to Rio, which will explain the different methods of travel available to you from wherever you are and wherever you need to go. Now also, we use Google Maps to find things like bus stops, train stations, and any place we wanted to go, whether it was just getting from our London hotel to Buckingham Palace, or to track our journey from London to Southampton, or to find a bus route from our hotel in Folkestone to the Dover Castle while doing some pre-cruise exploring. So although getting around might have its small challenges, it's really no different than visiting a new city in the US. Just allow yourself a little extra time to get where you need to go, and everything will work out just fine. Now, if you're traveling all the way across the pond for a bucket list cruise, hopefully you can add a few days before or after your cruise to do some sightseeing and explore this amazing country and learn more about its history, culture, and the people. Now, at the risk of doing some self-promotion, I'll add some links to our videos from our overseas travel in the description box below the video, and I'll throw one up here as well that you can link to and check out if you're interested. That way you can get a little idea how things went for us. Or better yet, if you're enjoying the video, you can always subscribe to the channel and search our videos for our US to UK vlogs. Also, if you want to book your next cruise to the UK or to any cruise location from any cruise port, anywhere on any cruise line, do me a favor, contact my awesome wife, Sharon, at sharonatsea@gmail.com. That's right, sharonatsea@gmail.com. And she can help you with all of your planning, and she can walk you through everything you'll need to know to cruise from the US to the UK. Now, we've made a number of these cruise port videos and guides and things like that. And when we do that, we like to cover info on where to stay and what to see in the area near the port. This video is a little bit different because most people choose to explore the London area before traveling to their embarkation cruise port, and there are a million things to see and do in this huge city. So here's what I'll tell you. Make a list of all the things you want to see and do in London and the surrounding areas and prioritize them. Now open up Google Earth on your computer and go to the United Kingdom. Search out the airports, the places you want to see, and the potential areas you want to stay in. Then you can search the hotels in that area. Now you'll find tons of hotels in all different kinds of price ranges depending on the quality of the hotel and how close they are to the popular destinations. You're going to find the name brand hotels that you know from right here in the US, and you'll find all the little boutique ones and everything in between. Now once you find a hotel, use that little peg man in Google Earth to go down to the street view and learn more about what is around the hotel you're looking at. You can see the surrounding area, what's nearby, is it dining, are there bus stations and things like that. Now on our London stay, we stayed at the DoubleTree London Kensington, which turned out to be a great spot for us. It was a Hilton brand hotel, and we almost always stay at Hilton hotels for the points, and it was a nice part of town, close to the popular landmarks, and most importantly, it was very close to the underground rail station that I mentioned earlier, which we learned to use quickly, and the train got us from Heathrow to our hotel, and then it got us everywhere we wanted to go all over London. Now, we spent a day exploring on our own using Google Maps, and we took an all-day tour with Shore Excursions Group on another day, which was awesome. There's an affiliate link in the description box below that you can use to book a pre-cruise excursion, as well as excursions for many other places you'll visit on your cruise. And the best part, they have a back-to-the-ship guarantee. So if you're looking for something like that, if you want to travel outside of any cruise line excursions, feel free to check them out. Again, it's Shore Excursions Group. The affiliate link is down in the description box below. Please go ahead and click that, book your excursion with them. You won't regret it. We've used them and had great experiences. Now remember, London is about 2 hours from either of the cruise ports I mentioned in this video, and there are many ways to get to either port from London. Make sure to plan ahead for these trips. The cheapest option will be to take a train from London to either port area, or you can pre-arrange a car service like the one I mentioned earlier. You can make the trip to the port the morning of the cruise, or you can go there and stay the night before and stay in a local hotel. Southampton is a larger city and has many different accommodations to choose from, while Dover is much smaller. But you can still find a hotel there, or do what we did for our Dover cruise, stay in a town close by like Folkestone. Just make sure to pre-arrange your travel from the hotel to the cruise port on embarkation day. And again, if you have a larger group, make those arrangements ahead of time. Also remember, at the end of your cruise, you'll have to do all of that traveling to the airport in reverse, so make those arrangements ahead of time as well to reduce your stress level on debarkation morning. Now, I told you I would share my tip to minimize jet lag, and here it is. I mentioned to make sure to fly overnight over to the UK, get in midday, and when you arrive in London, after all the travel, after the 7 or so hour flight from the US, and you get to your hotel room, no matter how tired you are, do not, I repeat, do not take a nap. Get right out and start exploring. Yes, you will be exhausted, but if you can just stay up, through dinner to bedtime like you normally would, you will have a great sleep, and when you wake up, you'll be refreshed and ready for the day with what should be minimum amount of jet lag from all that travel and the 5-hour time difference. At the end of the day, just remember, cruising from the UK isn't that much different than cruising from a new cruise port in the US. Do your research, plan ahead, and you'll be ready for anything, and you'll have a great cruise. Listen, I hope you found the video to be helpful and it makes things a little bit easier in planning your next cruise from the UK from the US. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it. Contact my wife Sharon to book your next cruise with an incredibly experienced travel agent. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.